Everybody.
Oh, hi.
Dylan, put your Zune down.
Yes.
Oh, God, I know you're in your Creed music right now. You got to put that stuff away. We have a show to do.
It does take me higher.
How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well today, Zach. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, thanks. I'm actually doing pretty well. Yeah.
Good.
I've been, I signed up for that free service of IMDb Pro.
Yes.
So
does that come with IMDb TV?
That does not come with IBM TV. It comes with IBM. I'm not sure exactly what it comes with.
Okay.
All I know is that it gives me the access to send some emails to other streaming services. So if you haven't been checking your inbox, I've been CCing you on some pretty serious emails here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so really thought you were going to have some with that, but I guess not. Anyway, let's move on with the show. So
you already made a Zune joke. I'm already tapped out.
Oh, I didn't mean to make fun of your friggin' band. Anyway, this is Talking UpStream. We are Some Nobodies. This is our website up here, somenobodies.com. My name is Zach, and this over here is Dylan Terry. And what we do on Talking UpStream is we try to give ourselves a job. We're trying to talk ourselves up to a streaming service, and we do that by making cool friends and talking a lot about weird products and things that we not products, I guess.
Not
more
products, not yet.
What's that other word? Not products, like projects, maybe. I don't know. There's so
programs.
Both of those will also
edutainment.
Edutainment, which is, it's a pretty key word here. If you're playing their synergistic bingo at home, yeah.
Terrible.
Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of tired of talking to you. So let's please bring up our new friend.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, Cammy, how are you?
Super fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I was doing good until starting to talk to Dylan, and now I'm not doing as good.
I have that effect on people.
Usually he gives me something to work with. Today it's really just stale toast, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cammy, Mythstorie.
Yes.
Mythstorie. Okay, so obviously our first question always is, what is Mythstorie? What is your podcast about?
Yeah, sure. So each week we take a myth, legend, cryptid, whatever. We give you the story, like the actual myth, and then we tell you the history behind it.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, right on.
No, I like that. I'm sorry. I was a little bit torn aback by Dylan's very loud gulping.
Oh, was I?
Which is fine. Mythstorie. That's cool. So let's just obviously get this ball rolling. Dylan, what is your favorite myth?
Oh, that's a really hard question, actually. I grew up kind of reading, I don't remember the specific name of it, but it was that really big, thick, kind of like college level mythology collection. And I guess just stuff from the Odyssey. I was really into the adventuring stuff. So like Odysseus, Gilgamesh, that sort of thing. I don't have really a favorite.
That's okay.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Now, Cammy, was it a favorite myth of yours that got you interested in this project, or was this something that you just wanted to investigate one specific myth? How did this start?
Okay, I don't want to bore you guys, but I was a minor in classics, and my co-host Bryant went to grad school for history. So we just have a background in these things, and we're just both super interested in it. So that's pretty much how it started.
Yeah,
that's not
Zach,
boring
at
all.
all.
What's your favorite myth?
I guess I go to like more urban myths, I guess. So
those are fun.
Yeah, I don't really have now. Is your show urban myth also, or really just like the classic myths?
So we do both. We do pretty much everything. Like we've done Chupacabra, we've done we did Oedipus, stuff like that, Medusa, and then we also do stuff like Bloody Mary and that kind of thing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I guess mine would have to be the Jersey Devil, just because I'm from the East Coast.
That's fun.
And that's such like a weird one, because that's like a bunch of weird dudes like represent Jersey Devil. It's like, yeah, I see the Jersey Devil. Yeah, shut up. You just went to
There's a whole society of people. We don't want to get on their bad side. It's like a bunch of people that go out into the woods and they take it very seriously.
Yeah, I've met some. I grew up in Maryland / Delaware, so I've met some, some devilaholics or whatever they're called. Now, did you have a favorite going into this, and in learning about one, you swerved into a new favorite? Like, what is your ultimate myth?
I don't really have a favorite myth per se. I do really like reading Ovid. And so if he's covered something, then I'll usually pull from his story to like gather a myth. I guess one book I really like is the Satyricon. It doesn't go into any specific myths, but it talks about, it's basically the story of the Odyssey, but Priapus, if you know who that is the main character, and all the follies kind of come from that god. So.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
When you and your co-host Brian, when you decide which one to do you have a certain progression that you try to focus on? Do you try and kind of hit all the marks in rotation, or do you just kind of wait to see what strikes, do your research, and do an episode on that?
So we actually have a Google Doc that we started, and we just add stuff. We'll ask our followers if there's anything, when we get an email or whatever, we'll do myths on that. I do the research along, and then just one of us will say, hey, the next, because we record about a month ahead. And so we'll say, hey, these are the next 4 we want to do.
Right on.
So out of all the shows you've done so far, which one turned out to be maybe your favorite because of the education you've gotten from that myth? Definitely
Medusa. I did not realize how much there was to that myth and how deep it went. And it just blew my mind. There's different ways to read it, where Medusa is actually the hero of the story and not this villainous creature. So that one for sure.
Speaking of Medusa, when it comes to pop culture or references to things that you know a lot about because of your research, such as Percy Jackson. I just recently rewatched that episode 1, and obviously Medusa is a pretty big character in there. Now, are you very nitpicky where you can't even enjoy pop culture references because they are so farcical?
I actually really like it when people bring up stuff in pop culture because you don't see it a lot. And so it makes, I don't know, I feel like it makes sense. And I would say I don't like God of War. That's probably not a popular opinion, but it's just so weird. Bryant loves it, but there's not a Kratos. So I just can't put myself in it.
Those additions to the canon are always really interesting when they do it like that. I know the big recent thing that's got Greek mythology on everybody's mind is the video game Hades, which portrays the Greek pantheon in a relatively modernized way, but it doesn't really add anybody. It just kind of uses altered, like, different versions of all of these myths and figures and stuff like that.
Is that the one where you're like rowing people across the river Styx or whatever? Something like that?
No, I don't remember the name I think I know what you're talking about. That's a different game. This is the one where you run through, you're trying to get out of the underworld and Hades is trying to stop you. And you just keep trying. Yeah. Would you say that there's a particular portrayal of any of these myths that you really do find not to your standard in any pop culture thing?
Probably. But I don't watch a lot of movies, so I couldn't really tell you, or a lot of television for that matter. I will say, what's that one with the mechanical owl that is about
Clash of the Titans?
So it's terrible, but I love it. Like it's
sure.
Yeah, don't watch the remake then, because it will make you hate everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that remake is awful.
That remake's bad.
So then the flip side, what of things that you have seen, because I know you said you don't watch a lot of things you have seen, what is your favorite representation of a classical myth?
It
like
probably would be that movie.
Oh yeah, that movie, yeah.
Yeah. I just love it. Like, I don't know why. It's
Mechanical Owl aside, it does have kind of a classical portrayal of everything. It does try to do like old theatrical Greece as opposed to like the remake, which is all action all the time.
Yeah.
I do really like Gladiator as well. I mean, I know that's not like super myth based. It's loosely based on Spartacus, but yeah, that movie is really good.
There was a potential sequel where he gets resurrected by Zeus as an immortal and fights through history. So we never got that, unfortunately. Yeah,
that is unfortunate.
Was there a myth that you found out, like, that you did not know about while doing this show that kind of like led you to like, I've never heard about this myth? Like I guess the newest myth that you learned about.
Sure, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I'm pretty well versed in like Greek and Roman stuff, but when we started doing Norse, for instance, I had never really read anything. I knew of the characters, but like I had never really read anything at all. And so going back and reading like what Snorri wrote on, the Prose Edda and all of that. I mean, it was a really good experience. It's so similar to like the Greek myths and stuff. So I don't know, I found that really interesting. And then we also went into some Japanese myths, which I'd never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like if it's Greek or Roman, I'm probably at least a little bit knowledgeable, but the rest of it, like it opens up worlds, really.
Is there one that you really want to cover that you've been having either issues doing or had some pushback or just haven't had the opportunity to do it? Or is that spoilers for a future episode of yours?
No, there's definitely one that we want to do, the Squonk, and we're actually working with another podcast on it, but it's just such a weird niche creature. If you haven't ever looked it up, definitely do. It's so weird. It's like this big, almost, it's like a hippopotamus almost, but it's made out of tears.
The Squonk?
The Squonk.
Squonk. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So finding the info on that is a little frustrating because of the fact that it isn't as well known, and it's very niche to like a certain area. I think it's in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Oh, the Squonk.
Huh. I never heard of that one. I did a little bit of a deep dive on cryptids a while ago. There's one for Colorado, which is effectively a whale that grabs onto the top of a mountain, and then it slides down and eats things that are on the mountainside and then pulls itself back up.
Okay, definitely PM me that, because
yeah.
I'd love to cover it.
I wrote a little mini piece for a friend's zine on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cryptids are fun.
Yeah.
They are really fun.
What was the precipice of turning this project into a podcast? Or did it start out as a podcast? Or like, was it like maybe something you were like maybe a documentary working on? But why did this turn into a podcast?
Yeah, so Bryant and I had spoken for probably close to 2 years about doing a podcast. We were both so busy all the time, and we just didn't really have the time to do it. And I was living on a boat at the time, and we talked about, let's do it, something about a boat. And then it was like, but where do you go from there? We talked about doing politics, but then we didn't really want to get into that. So this is something we both enjoy. That's why we kind of went to this, gravitated towards it.
And did you have like a favorite podcaster before this that was like a pretty like substantial influence on you?
Yeah, so shout out to My Favorite Murder and Georgia specifically. I love Karen to death, but Georgia specifically from that, because she always says bigger dummies than you. And basically it just means like anything that you could ever think about doing, somebody that's a bigger dummy than you has done it. So you can also do it, basically.
It's not a bad way of thinking about it.
Yeah, very true.
When you guys are planning an episode, do you have a sort of creative routine you do? Do you the dichotomy I like to use is like people who sprint, where it's you do a lot of work in a short period of time and maybe prepare beforehand, or marathon where you just kind of do steady things like that. Do you tend to just kind of prep stuff a lot ahead of time, or do you rush when the crunch is there?
Well, I can't really speak to what Bryant does. I work on it when I have free time, and I own a lot of primary sources that I can draw from. So I can just kind of work on it wherever. I don't have to like grab sources. If I do need a source, I'll use like theoe.com or something that has like primary sources in there. So I can do it at a very leisurely pace. Although because I don't have a lot of free time, I do kind of cram it a little bit into what I do have.
Now, because you're learning so much and you get such like a spectrum of stories, mostly fantasy, I guess, do you ever get into the realm where you create your own stories or your own characters?
Oh yeah, like Wendigo is a really good example, because while they're like stories about Wendigo, they're all anything that you can read like on the internet is pretty new, because it didn't come from a written source, whatever. These were stories that were told. So there's not like a Wendigo story out there that's the classic myth of Wendigo. So I had to just basically completely do it from scratch. Bloody Mary was similar, because it's the same thing. I mean, it's an urban legend. It's not something that we have a definitive story on.
So I guess the pinnacle of what we're trying to do with Talking Upstream is we're trying to talk ourselves to a streaming service and make a movie. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
That'd be like the apex of our goal. If there is a pinnacle of what Mythstorie could get to, like just an apex, like what would that be? Would it be a documentary? Would it be like a TV show?
We have talked about doing a book, and I'd really like to eventually do that. I think it would be really cool. We've worked with a couple of artists just with our logo design and with a couple of things that we've done maybe for Instagram and stuff like that. And so that would be kind of my dream on it. I know Peter, who is he's a sometimes Peter. He's like the Y in the vowel sequence of Mythstorie. He's sometimes on. He also is expressed interest in that as well.
Yeah, book sounds awesome. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would.
It's a good medium for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love learning about myths. Dylan, you're up.
I know you said you don't do a whole lot of pop culture stuff. There's starting to be some idea that kind of superheroes are becoming the modern day kind of mythic presentation of something like that. You think there's any sort of credence to that idea, comparing it to like how Greek gods or something similar might have been like the pinnacle, always portrayed as kind of like parahuman almost?
Sure. It is different because people at some point really did believe in these things, even if they don't today. And I don't think people are really going out there believing in like the Flash or Superman or whatever. But you are correct. They do follow the format of the hero's journey more often than not. And once you get into that, like Star Wars too, once you get into that realm, I mean, they basically are myth, but nobody starts out believing it. So I guess that's really the difference.
I guess it's well said, but a question just occurred to me, and I'm going to swerve to the left a little bit.
Okay.
When doing any of this research, has there been a historical fact you've discovered that kind of like you had no idea about, or you've never heard, or completely took you by surprise?
Yeah, we do a two truths and a lie episode that can either be myth-based or it can be history-based. And I found out, I don't want to spoil. I'll tell you a different one I found out because I don't want to spoil this. You guys are going to have to listen. So yeah, when I was doing research, there have been a lot of secession attempts in the US. Let's just put it that way. Like a lot of different states for a lot of really odd reasons have wanted to secede.
Yeah. I remember reading that Wikipedia article back in like high school and being like, oh, wow, this is way more common than I'd expected.
Yeah, the Florida Keys one is my favorite.
Oh,
they started their own country basically, and within an hour were like, hey, we don't want to be a country anymore, and applied for like $1 billion in foreign aid.
Nice. Zach, we got to do that.
Classic keys right there. That sounds exactly like the keys.
Mhm.
Cammy, we met you on Shattered Dungeons or Shattered Tabletop, which is like a version of like a role-playing game. Is that something that you do a lot as a creative outlet, or do you have different forms of things that you do, like just to kind of get rid of the podcast or whatever your work is?
Really, I don't have time to do that kind of thing. I like to help out. I know we said we weren't going to get into politics, but anytime there's like a new campaign going on that I agree with, I'm going door to door, like knocking on doors and stuff. I mean, it's not really a creative outlet, but that's one thing I do. I mean, the podcast really allows me to have that creative outlet, so I don't really need as much of it. But
one of the other podcasts that Dylan and I work on, it's called I'm Nobody, and it's where people ask me 10 questions just so I can get to learn about other people instead of just me saying the same stupid stuff about Star Wars over and over again. And one of the best questions that I was ever asked is, of my life, of Zach Wiseman, what season am I in if my life were a show? So Cammy, if your life was a show, and I heard you say at some point you lived on a boat, which sounds like a pretty cool season. But what season in the life of Cammy are you in?
oh wow, this might be season 5 for everybody just because of the pandemic.
I did the math, and I'm in like season 7, and I think pandemic might have finished out 7, so I could be in season 8 by now.
Oh
But
wow.
I've had a very weird life, and I think Dylan's in season 3. So
I think I gave you like 6, I think, but that was a while ago. That was pre-pandemic even.
Yeah, that was a couple of seasons in there.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy interviewing people?
We don't really do interviews very often. We do have guests, but we don't really interview them at all. We'll ask them a couple of questions. It's not really I'm usually a pretty private person, so I don't really want people to ask a ton of questions of me. Not about the podcast, it's fine. But, so I just give that same respect to other people, I guess.
No, that's cool. But you do have guests. So would you say there's like an ideal guest that you would love to have on if you could have like your ultimate person on there?
There's not a specific person, but I do really enjoy when people who, like we had this lady, Debbie, she's from Ireland and she studies classics, but she also knows a lot about Irish mythology. So somebody like that just knows what they're doing and knows what they're talking about. And so if we bring up a concept like mytheme, they're not just going to be like, what are you talking about? That kind of thing. Those are always fun.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. Have you had, kind of in the opposite direction, have you had any episodes where you were just not satisfied with it, or that took multiple attempts, or didn't turn out how you liked but you still learned from?
Sure. The first 2 episodes we did re-record just because the place that we had picked to record was not working like sound wise. And they were up for a while before we recorded it. But we got better microphones and that sort of thing. And we were about to be on a convention. It wasn't Indie Pods, it was a different one. But we were about to be on a convention. We were like, let's re-record these because a lot of people start from episode 1. And I don't want that to be the intro to our podcast.
Yeah, actually, I was about to ask that question. If somebody wanted to hop into your show right now, what episode would you tell them to start with, just to really give them a good encapsulation, whatever that word is, of who you guys are?
I mean, I would start with Wendigo. It is by far my favorite episode. But I mean, just start from the newest one.
Yeah, cool.
Or whichever one interests you. There's a lot of different subjects. So like if you find something like, hey, I'm not into Greek myth, but I'm into Japanese myth, pick one of those.
I think the first one I listened to was the Ninja Shinobi one, because I'm like, oh, it's not a Greek myth. So it's something, it's like I'm relatively familiar. So it's nice to hear people talk about a concept that's not just a Western myth.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, is there a culture that has I'm not really sure how to phrase this question, but I guess I don't really know where I was going to go with that. I was trying to think of like if there's a culture that doesn't have like a myth, or if there was one that is like interesting, but I can't really form that question.
One thing I will say, when we're doing Egyptian myth, we usually have to use Greek sources because the way that they wrote things wasn't the same way. It's not a story like we think of a story. So, God, Scorpion King is a good example. I actually didn't use a Greek source for it. I used a tablet that had hieroglyphs on it, but it wasn't traditional hieroglyphs where I'd have to understand what was going on. It was just pictures of events that were happening. And so I formed the story of the Scorpion King from both sides of this tablet. So there's definitely cultures that may see things just differently than like a Western ideal of how we would see a myth. And you just have to glean from that what you can.
What would you say is like, I guess the oldest myth is I don't want to say that's like religion.
Gilgamesh is probably the oldest myth. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So that's why Dylan talks about him so much.
It's one of the first narratives that human civilization has produced that we have on record. Like a straightforward, like, guy has a goal, guy tries to accomplish it, and in this case, guy fails. But it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest recorded narrative that we have for human history. It's not saying it's the first, but it's the first we became aware of.
Yeah. Now, Cammy, if you had to start a second podcast for whatever reason, what would that podcast be about?
I don't know. Maybe politics. We might want to jump into that realm eventually, but yeah, I'm not sure. I really like mythology. I wouldn't want to do like true crime or anything like that, but maybe like a historical murder investigation kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, do you also story write? Like, I know that you wrote a lot for Wendigo. Now, do you write a lot of just straight fiction? Like, do you create your own like universes or characters?
I mean, I write short stories, but I don't go through. Yeah, I don't go through it. It's not a Marvel universe of what Cammy does.
Yeah, but you do write stuff that isn't necessarily myths that already exist, or yeah. Okay, that's cool. Then that's going to help out with what we're about to do.
Fun.
Dylan, do you have any more questions for our new friend Cammy, or do we start getting into this stuff?
I think we start getting into this stuff. Are you? Oh, I thought you were trying to signal me something. I'm not paying attention.
Oh, no, I was ready to break off some creativity here.
Yeah. All right.
I have no idea.
You want to set us up for the next phase, Zach?
Okay, so Cammy, what we do here is that throughout the week, Dylan comes up with some very weird idea that hopefully no one's heard of, and I do the same thing. And we used to get together and try to create a new project, podcast, movie, board game, whatever. But we got so tired of fighting each other that we decided to make our guests decide. So what we do here is we're going to throw two ideas at you, and you get to choose which one we turn into something. I have no idea what Dylan's going to do, but I'm going to pitch the same thing that I did last time because I was really upset with how my pitch went, and I think that it could be better. So, Cammy, the idea that I had was this future tech that would invent like a pill or some kind of something, a digestible, that would put you to your, I guess, your chromatic perfection. Say there were like a clone made of you that doesn't have all of like the real world stuff that you went through, and it'd be just the most pristine version of what Cammy could be, right? So say you take this pill to fix your ailment, say it's hair loss or cancer or whatever, but what you didn't know was that you had a conjoined twin. So when you take this pill, your conjoined twin comes back. Or just something along the lines of fixing something that you did not know was wrong with you by a future tech. Because as I was thinking about this today, I got down a loophole of like, if you had a twin, would that twin disappear? Either way, I want to discuss at some point in my life what this, I'm going to call it a God pill, what this God pill is going to do. So
like, that it returns you to factory settings almost, but it turns out your factory setting had like.
Okay, have you seen The Island? Dylan?
Me, no.
Yeah, I figured you hadn't. I know you're not a movie person.
That way back when.
All right, so the whole purpose was that they had just a clone version of you somewhere, and it was the most pristine version of you. And if you ever
actually, I have seen that. It's
Yeah,
got that. They filmed it in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
I have
very
seen
cool
that.
movie. Yeah. So what I thought about was taking like an adjacent version of that tech, and if you could just take a capsule that would turn you into that. But there's something about you didn't know. Maybe you had a prehensile tail. Maybe you had a conjoined twin. Who knows? So, the one I'm going to pitch now and again probably is I'm going to call it God Pill until I come up with something better.
Is this like a series of shorts, or does it follow one person?
I mean, the first one was, for some reason, that conjoined twin was the thing that really captured me. So it could be shorts depending on what we think about this, if we ever get to it.
Been there.
I know. Indie Pod Summit's coming up pretty soon, so maybe this is going to be the next one.
That's true. That'll get us an audience.
Okay, Dylan, what are you going to pick?
So I've been watching a lot of just magic kind of media. A lot of magic stuff is on TV right now.
Wait, like The Gathering or David Blaine?
Yeah, that was my question.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Okay. So just
like one division, that sort of thing, like magic.
Okay, the idea of magic.
Yes. And I was thinking about stage magicians, and what if someone could actually do it? And they do the vanishing trick. They're like, I need a member from the audience, and they disappear them. And then the magician dies before they can bring him back. Or like either drops dead, or someone breaks in and like causes, and something bad happens to him, or something contrived happens to prevent the magician from bringing that person back, and so they have to find them or get a team together or something to find them.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Did you have a predisposed idea of what kind of magic this is, or no?
No, I figured it's presented as stage magic, so that way you can have the setup where they're at the magic show, and he calls someone forward from the audience, disappears them, and then like a stage light falls on them, on the magician or something, and they don't bring him back. And then it turns out magic is real, but I never considered what type of magic or who it came from, or really any background information whatsoever.
Okay, so Miss Cammy.
Okay.
You have probably the easy, who knows, it could be a hard choice to decide, but do we work on the project of what a superior technological pill would do, or do we work on the project of what if magic is real and a magician, after disappearing somebody, dies?
Okay. I really like the idea of the magic, because it could be like a murder mystery almost, or a kidnapping or something kind of like that. Don't cross it out yet. Because I was going to say we should do the God pill because you want to do it so badly.
Oh no! I'm not gonna lie to you. That is not a very good reason. It
might be the first time that the guest has been like, "You really want to do this?"
Yeah, usually they're like,
That's
"We want to do the one you don't want to do," or whatever. Or the worst is when people's like, "Oh, let's just make both of them together." And we're like,
"Well, I think the magic one's a really easy sell. So when you pitch it again, someone's gonna pick it."
That's true, but you can pick it because it sounds cool. Whatever you want to do, it's completely up to you. If you want to do this God pill thing, that's totally fine. We'll figure that out. I'm excited about it. Something weird's going to happen out of either one of these two stories. P.S. Dylan, very good job. That was a very cool story. But yes, Miss Cammy, please.
So God pill. I mean,
okay,
perfect.
Right?
Yeah,
good. I was trying to reverse psychologize. Get that God pill made. Okay, so we are going to figure out what this project is going to be. But before we do that, Miss Cammy, will you please tell people where to find your stuff, sell anything you want to sell?
Sure. So we are on basically anywhere you can get your podcast. So Apple, Google, Spotify, all of those good things. We also have a YouTube channel, and we are working with Popular Opinion YouTube, which we're actually doing a myth series where we take a pop, like I have Cthulhu here, and there's a myth series of pops, and we tell it's basically the same thing I do in the podcast. We tell you the myth and then give you the history behind it and kind of show off the pops and stuff. So that's really it.
No, that's cool. Yeah,
Right on.
Dylan's a fan. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan too, but I always just like to throw his name out there for some reason. But he actually does. He does talk about this. Usually, it's people in here that I want to talk to. But this one, Dylan was like, "Please," and I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So please go check out Mythstorie. Very, very good. Very, very good show. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what we're going to do with this thing. Okay, so before we get started, special thanks to International Broadcast Media Television for having me and my best friend Dylan on weekly. And we just get to talk about stupid stuff, such as weird tech that we're about to invent, and sometimes magic that no one knows what it is. But we do appreciate it, so thank you very much, everybody on here. And some other friends that we got to thank. We have Listener app. If you're into podcasts like Mythstorie and you want to actually read the words instead of just hearing them, because I slur, Cammy has got a great voice, whatever. But if you do want to read them and save those words, you can always go and check out Listener app. You can find them on Instagram at The Greatest Podcast App. Scott Curtis behind the bits. Awesome thing. If you're into interview podcasts or if you're into comedians, Scott Curtis is an award-winning podcaster, award-winning interviewer. Go check him out behind the bits. Some East Coast friends, Sarah Tkachuk and Tanya Sheck. Those are the people that make all this weird stuff happen. And if you want to be one of these people that I get to say your name most likely incorrectly, you can go to patreon.com/somenobodies and you can help us do all of our weird stuff. We have a create your own pod venture coming out soon, which has I think like 9 different endings. So we're going to put them all out at once, and you get to kind of choose the way that you want this story to go on your own. Then you can listen back and whatever. Dylan wrote a whole bunch of weird stuff for that. And you can always find us live on Twitch on Tuesdays. Twitch.
Yeah. That's when we get weird.
That's when we do get weird. Yeah, we have no parameters and we have no guests, so no one gets to rein me in and tell me it's a good or bad idea. Okay, so Dylan,
Zach,
this God pill.
Yeah. What were you thinking?
So I like the idea of somebody having a very superfluous problem, such as hair loss. It could even be something even more serious, but I like the idea of it maybe being somebody a little bit more vain, and them taking this and then something crazy happens that they did not expect. The things that I could think of, obviously, like a prehensile tail, which I know is some people have. Obviously, the conjoined twin is something that would be very, very interesting to go down. But that was pretty much the basis of this: is what if you could reset your genes to be the ideal version of yourself, but it was something you didn't want?
Yeah. Did you have any sort of, I think first, what type of story this was going to be? Was it going to be a larger scale, long form thing like a movie? Was it going to be a series of shorts? What were you, or just a single short? What were you thinking? Anything in particular?
Very good question, and thank you for asking that. I would assume that depending on how this tech is produced or what this is, if this story is cool, then maybe a series. But I would like to see this as a short. I think keeping it like a tight little story, plopping somebody into a universe they don't know a lot about, and then having something horrific to them happen, and then jumping out of this thing. So
I was definitely going to say short or series of shorts if we want to have just like a targeted series of shorts where it's like, hey, all these stories happen in a world where a pill can revert you back to your factory
that would be
settings.
cool. Yeah.
So that way you get
different characters.
Yeah, you can do the prehensile tail, you can do the conjoined twin, you can do I don't know what else to go on right now, but we can do, a short for a variety of different scenarios where this pill could serve as both a curse in addition to a blessing.
All right, cool. So then we're going to keep this a tight series of probably 8, just because we're having a hard time of thinking of a third one right now. But let's work on the first one. Sure. Now let's say that this is a I guess a half an hour show. Right. Okay. I don't want to push it to too long. Because especially if it's going to be a series, let's keep it at half an hour. So, Cammy, do you like the idea of it being a pill?
I mean, it's just got to be something that would be universal if we're doing 8 of them. So I think a pill does work.
Cool.
Maybe an injection even. So they're taking a little bit more risk with it. Not that injection would be risky, but it's painful at least.
Yeah, I think when I first thought about it, the idea was that it was a vanity move. So I guess like a higher level, maybe elites can afford this or something. So yeah, but I like the idea of it being consistent. That way people could just hop into it. All right, so we're gonna work on the first one first, right? Now, do we? Yes.
Do we just want to brainstorm potential do we just want to spend this first little bit brainstorming just potential things that these episodes could cover? Like, we've got 2 right now. We have someone regrowing a tail. We have someone regrowing a conjoined twin. Do we want to try and think of just kind of brainstorm some more stuff, or do we want to really dive in and specify one of these ideas first?
Yeah, I guess if we can think of a couple good ideas, then we would know that it has sustainability for a series. Cammy, can you think of anything else that would fall along the lines of this that somebody would inadvertently revert into? Like, I guess something else would be like an extra appendage, maybe.
Sure, I was thinking like webbed hands, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Their hands get webbed. Maybe they grow gills even.
Oh, cool.
It malfunctions or something and throws them back even further.
Evolutionarily speaking, yes.
I like that.
I'm starting to see this as like an anthology film almost, where like we have one major kind of the structure I'm thinking is like, I've been reading a few just thrifted best sci-fi anthologies of like 85, and they're all short stories, and there tends to be kind of like 2 or 3 spotlights that are slightly longer, and then between them there are really short pieces, and I'm seeing this as kind of like, we have the main one, and then we have a bunch of satellite shorts kind of peppered throughout.
Okay. So do you want to work on this main one?
I mean, I think so.
Or do you want to keep knocking out these results?
I think we might want to have 1 or 2 more ideas for what we could potentially portray in this. Right now we have a conjoined twin, a prehensile tail, and then fish person.
Yeah, so like webbed fingers and or gills.
Yeah. I actually grew gills in my RPG game night last night. It was an accident.
All right, and I guess also depending.
Yeah.
I guess depending on. No, go ahead.
I was talking. I'm sorry, but so is this a world where things like magic exist or creatures exist? Because maybe, somewhere down the line there's a werewolf in their lineage or something.
I was about to bring up the same thing. Like, we need to bring in like the topic, or I guess the universe and what style this is. So then if mermaids exist, then people could just pop a tail and not realize it. So I guess, Dylan, do you think that this is something that we could set after fantasy elements have evolved out of people, or maybe magically taken away, and that way they don't realize what this thing can do, and it can just bring some people into fantasy realms? Or do you want to stick to as realistic as possible?
I'm not sure if fantasy, at least from my kind of instinctual image of this, fantasy elements feel like it might be a little much. I think if we're trying to highlight how shocking this is, that this is happening, we kind of keep it in a reality that's as close to ours as possible. Maybe just add in the it takes place in like 50 years when medical science has advanced to the point where you can throw people back to their evolutionary predecessors.
Cool. And then what are some other things that people could have then?
There's something, if we want to go real like horrific, we could do something with teeth.
Ooh.
I don't know what specifically.
Or the jaw.
Yeah.
Ooh, like a hingeable jaw.
We could do before, so if you are going back evolutionarily, like maybe they have like a sagittal keel or crest, or their brain is just shaped differently, so they think differently now.
Ooh, cool. All right, so brain size. Okay, cool. Okay, so Dylan, if we're going to pop into this first story, what do we see first? Like, what are we getting? Which one of these stories do you think we should work on first to kind of really capture the audience and be like, this is what this thing is doing?
I think if we want to really kind of showcase some weirdness and get people, I don't know if we want to shock people, but I think the idea of this is that it's supposed to be kind of shocking. I think we do either the tail or fish person malfunction, where
Yeah.
something weird goes on with the pill or something.
That is cool.
And
Yeah, and,
that sort of thing.
And I want to be very clear. We don't think that any of this stuff is horrific or gross. It is the transformation of somebody who doesn't expect it is what we're trying to dive into. If you happen to have webbed fingers or toes, we don't find that gross. That's whatever.
We're pro fish people on this show.
Totally pro fish people, pro werewolves, pro all those things. We just think that the transformation is the cool part. So that's what we're going to get into. Okay, so if we're going to start with the fish person or the tail, I think maybe the tail might be kind of cool because it's subtle and horrific.
Okay.
Right?
It's very Dragon Ball.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be long. I think like even if it gets to like the Jack Black and Shallow Hal kind of thing, where it's just like a tiny little like snipped puppy dog tail, just like enough that you are just, I now have a tail. I have to deal with this. It
should be a dramatic enough impact that it impacts that person's life. For some reason, having a tail should be more than just, I suddenly have to deal with having a tail. It should have some sort of impact on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so who is this person? Let's build out this first person who's going to accidentally get a tail. So they would need to have something that they think is wrong with them. They would need to adjust. So I do like the idea of somebody who's just balding, trying to take, a medicine to fix that. How do we feel about that?
Sure.
It definitely works, especially if we want this first person to be vain. It gives them a reason to they want to regrow their hair. And in the process,
maybe they're not even really balding. They just think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Better. All right. Okay, cool. And what's this guy's name? Cammy, give me a dude's name.
I'm trying to think of a dude's name.
Any dude's name.
I don't have a lot of experience with dudes' names.
Any name that sounds like a dude.
York.
York.
Okay. Yeah, perfect.
Right. That's a cool name. All right. So we got York, who is experiencing subtle male pattern baldness, and somehow he learns about this new tech medicine, Meditech. Meditech. That sounds cool. Anyway, and he's taking it to stop, subtly revert the male pattern baldness. Does it work?
Yeah. Yeah, it works. I'm seeing this one as not a very long one, but we get him. Maybe we show the impact of nobody else notices, but he definitely notices that his hair is going. And so there's a commercial which sets up the world, which is new from Meditech. And it probably advertises getting rid of surgery scars, getting rid of that sort of thing. It's presented as a way for people to feel better about themselves.
It reworks your genome for perfection.
Yeah. It doesn't change who you are, but it makes you the best you can be.
Yeah, perfect. It reworks your genomes. I like that. Okay, so first guy, York, he gets his hair back, and it's gorgeous, right? It's ideal hair for what he wants. What he didn't realize was that he is predisposed to having a bit of a prehensile tail. So Dylan, what is the little story that he goes through with this? What are we trying to show here?
I'm seeing this as one of those stories where the character makes a way bigger deal out of it than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think the interesting thing about having this be a tail is that we're setting him up to be kind of vain, and a tail is something that just, if you're wearing normal clothing, is probably going to be out of sight, out of mind. So I imagine this is either a story of self-destruction where he's obsessing about it to the point where he causes his own embarrassment that he was trying to avoid in the first place, or he learned something about himself, and the real tales were the friends we made along the way.
Honestly, if we had a drinking game on this show, that would probably be the center square.
It's been too long. I haven't made that joke in a long time, actually.
Oh, that's true. Also, that and using references like salt. And also talking about The Expanse. Those are pretty big bingo things.
It had the perfect finale for the penultimate season. That's all I'm going to say about it.
That's so funny. Okay, so then we're going to go down this story of vanity with this man who wanted to just have hair, and now he has to have a tail. And now, is this something where like he left an ex-partner due to vanity, and they're the only ones that'll take his call, and then he gets back with him? Is it that? Are we kind of doing one of those stories?
How sympathetic do we want this character? How sympathetic do we want York to be? Do we want to watch this guy self-destruct, or do we want to root for him?
I don't think that he has a specific partner or anything like that. I see him as like a ladies' man.
Yeah,
cool. That
an aging ladies' man.
Nice.
Maybe a little, yeah.
No, I like that. So an aging ladies' man. Okay, now now also keep in mind, Dylan, that this is episode 1 of the series. Mm-hmm. So we need to draw intrigue, but we also need to end it in kind of a good way with episode 1 so that shocks later on down the series are bigger deals, I think.
Do we want there to be a through thread that is kind of progress in each story? You know what I'm like none of the actual individual stories are about it, but we see the advancement of something happening through each of them, like regarding the company.
Yeah, I always like through threads.
Yeah.
I think a series long storyline makes sense too.
Maybe throughout these shorts we start seeing either Meditech, is that what you would call it?
Yeah, Meditech.
We see Meditech's real agenda come to light, or we see the state of Meditech kind of alternate in either reverse or in concert with the fortunes of the characters. So like
they're kind of trying to cover it up or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Maybe Meditech would be after him because it didn't work.
Oh, okay. So Meditech now is canceling people that has roughly some side effects.
Yeah, extreme side effects.
All right, cool. All right, I like that.
So he's not only got to worry about his vanity now, but maybe he can be a hero after all, and he, comes through this because Meditech is after him. We have to root for him if the big guy's after him.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dylan, what would you think Meditech's agenda is? Why are they creating this if not to help humans?
So the idea of this pill, at least in the public persona, is to rework your genome so you become the ideal you. I mean, could it be just another iteration of like some sort of gene mapping or some sort of genetic?
What would be the most nefarious thing you can do with this tech?
Super soldiers.
Either super soldiers or gaining like patents and like rights over people's genetic code.
Yeah.
Owning people's code.
There's a waiver you sign where like by taking this pill you agree that your body and genetic code, your sequence becomes property of Meditech Industries or something like that.
Now, if they owned, say, 2 people that had a child, technically they would own that genome sequence. Is that how that works, or no?
I think so.
So maybe they're doing all of this to harvest the next generation of children.
Yeah, or it's a way of them to really solidify their stranglehold on like genetic research of something.
But I also did like Cammy's suggestion earlier about altering the brain size back to different, because there was like the different styles of humans or whatever, altering their brain to that to get a different thought process. That might be kind of interesting too.
Yeah. I'm getting now that we're kind of developing this, I'm getting some really strong cyberpunk, like biopunk, like that sort of thing.
Cool
Vibes here. And I say I say we lean into it.
So is it an implant? It's not an injection?
I still like an injection or a pill.
Maybe the sinister to be continued thing at the end is them advertising. Maybe all these wear off after a certain amount of time, and the sinister to be continued element at the end of the entire thing is get an implant and it's not going to wear off.
Oh, cool. So they're doing this drug to either get addiction or to push a more expensive process that will make that permanent.
Yeah.
So then the whole first thing we can do is the big twist of the very first episode is finding out that it wears off. Like, say, I mean, he might know that or whatever, but if you're taking something to get rid of male pattern baldness and you get a little tail, you're just going to freak out for a little bit. And I guess maybe if it wears off at the end, but I also kind of like this side effect thing and them knocking out people. So
I'm
well,
thinking,
now that he knows about the side effect, they can't have him knowing about the side effect. I think both things can be true.
Yeah, love that. All right, cool. So at the end, we're going to find out that the initial pill wears off, causes subtle addiction, but also makes there is a level, a tier that makes this permanent. Is that right?
I think at the end of the whole thing, we reveal that they're working on a way to make it permanent, or they just release it, or something like that.
All right, cool.
And I'm thinking, we start off in this first one. I wonder if we should have these cover a long span of time. So in the first one, public opinion on like this pill use is really negative, and part of the conflict is York just covering it up so people don't know that he's taking this pill. And by the last one, it's become widespread enough that the people who have actually figured out the side effects and how bad it can be for you are now being treated as people who are like anti-caffeine.
So
this is an equivalent.
I just want to throw in, just thought about this, at some point during the series, when York changes who he is, when he becomes a more sympathetic character, I think he has to shave his head because he's trying to look different so these people aren't after him.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, I like that. That's a lesson he learned. Hair is not that important.
It's the real hair on your heart.
The real hair is the friends you make along the way. Okay, so we're going to have this first thing where he gets his hair back. He grows a little tail. York has to cover stuff up. He calls a helpline, and he's like, hey, I took this thing. The hair works great, so thank you for that. But also now I have this little tail. I don't know what's going on. And they dispatch people out to him. Like, hey, we'll get this figured out. Also, it's just going to wear off. But they're testing this thing on people. So when they do get the calls, they send somebody out to dispatch.
I don't think they eliminate him. I think they capture him.
Or maybe he gets away.
I feel like he gets away.
Yeah, I like that. But we learned that they're trying to do that, and we also learned that this medicine wears off.
I wonder if we shouldn't have York be the, you know how there's sometimes a prologue character that shows up later after something happens. So York gets vanished. And then we follow a different character for a while. And then when we have one of the big reveals, York is the catalyst of that reveal. And he shows up again, either having broken out or been released after being conditioned or something like that.
Cool. All right. So what do you want to get into at the beginning of episode 2? Now, does this kind of go back in time to the same beginning that York takes his pill? Is that what you're trying to say? Like with extended timelines?
Either that, or it takes place like months later, and York was just in the first phase of public release for this, and now everything is out and people are talking about it like it's getting normal.
All right, cool. So then in the second episode, which of these side effects are we going to go over?
I have conjoined twins.
You want that for the second one?
I wrote them down in the order that we kind of discussed them. So
yeah. Now that seems something that could either be like a mid-season finale or a finale, depending, or that could be a very good episode 2 to let you know, like, this could be the extent of how this works. How do you think?
I like this being a longer one. and I like it being kind of like a deeper exploration of what this does. And I think we do that by having whoever this character is be a member of like high society. And then when they take it, obviously, like it's hard to go to fundraisers when you have a conjoined twin out of your stomach.
I was thinking it's on a hip. I mean, nothing like
hip. Okay.
Yeah, you always think of Quado for some.
I do always think of Quado from Total
No,
Recall.
I was thinking more like whatever that one with Matt Damon is, Stuck to You, where it's like just round the hip.
Oh.
Maybe the person's taking it because they have this unsightly scar on their hip. They don't know what it is, and it's preventing them from being like a model or whatever this person is trying to get into.
Like a birthmark or something.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's work on who this person is.
Yeah.
Who do we want to see this person? Is this I mean,
I think the second main character needs to be a lady.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as we're not going to offer immediately.
No.
Absolutely. No. Put her in a fridge or anything.
No, the second one usually works out pretty well for people. Okay, so this lady is trying to be, I guess, like a model. She's in high society, so she has that kind of thing. Are we going to do that, which would make her that realm of vanity?
It should be a high society thing that requires public appearances. So yeah, a model works. And honestly, you could get some digs in at like in this era. If this is cyberpunk, everybody does body mods anyway. So she gets pressured into it, maybe.
All right, cool. Yeah, so she gets pressured
as a way of keeping up. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that does happen in the industry where they get, different people get pressured to have their body look a certain way, which is absolutely horrific, and I don't advertise or condone that. But let's just say that she is getting pressured to look pristine, and which is why she has this medicine. Now she takes this to get rid of a scar or birthmark, and now we get into the thing that I wanted to get into with this whole idea is now. If you had a conjoined twin, even if that twin was alive, now I'm not saying that like it died at birth and they threw it away, because I'm not sure. That seemed like that would be the genetic code of that. But let's just say that twin was lost at birth, right? It was cut, separated, fully functional, lost. Now, if you have this medicine, does it regrow another twin?
What if they ate the twin in the womb or whatever?
That's more what I was thinking this was going to be like.
Oh, okay. Cool. Sure. Then let's go down that realm. So they ate the twin in what? In the uterus, right?
In utero.
Yeah.
Okay. Not like a cannibalistic child thing.
Right.
No.
Okay. So they ate
I don't think it's technically eating either, but just absorb the nutrients.
Yeah. The absorption of a twin in utero. Now, and that left a birthmark of where it used to be, right? Okay. Now, when you take this medicine, does it form up like a person?
I figure it doesn't have. So the way I'm imagining this is that it tries to, but it does not have the like energy to fully do it. So you've got like this small human torso coming out of your hip or something like that.
Oh, weird. Okay.
You guys can totally say no to this.
Okay.
But since it would be a person that would be the same age as the other person, maybe she starts seeing like a ghost. But it's, the more she takes the medicine, the more full on this is a person. So she doesn't even know anything bad's happening.
Oh.
And then all of a sudden she has a twin.
So that horrific horror movie shot of just like she takes one more pill and she's like sweating and then it just bursts out of her or something.
Well, not necessarily that, but just appears beside her. Yeah, they don't have to be actually connected.
Okay.
So it's the idea of phantom limb, but of a whole person.
Right.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then the viewer would not know what's happening because they saw this other thing before with the tail, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the tail." But then, oh wow, this is really weird. Like this is some spooky stuff.
No, I like that a lot. Now, does the birthmark or scar go away? And so people think that it works?
I think it gets inflamed or something like that.
Okay.
I'm kind of stuck on the part of the physical aspect of this too. I do like the idea of her seeing an apparition of a woman maybe that looks like her and she has no idea what's going on. And at one point she like goes to the doctor or something and she points out like, this was supposed to get rid of all of my stuff, but my birthmark's just been getting larger or something like that.
I definitely like both. I like the idea of her talking to like a conscience that isn't there, but I also like the idea of like another human like forming maybe slowly or something, which also sounds kind of gross. But I think the idea of her being able to talk to a formed conscious but not having the mass to grow it could be the way out of that. And I think that also sounds kind of cool, because then people would just see her kind of yelling at herself or just at nothing. And it's actually like a twin.
How does this one go story-wise? Middle end? Where are we at? Any idea?
Where does this go in the sequence of the series?
Not so much. Where does the actual story, like right now it seems like we're building towards she starts having this apparition, and it feels like we're moving in the direction that it's not going to work out well for her.
I can solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So she's seeing the apparition, right? So that's there. But maybe she thinks now she's pregnant.
Oh, that's interesting. So she feels like another body forming inside of her and assumes that it's a pregnancy.
Maybe she's gaining weight like in that area or something, and she thinks it's that. Yeah.
I mean, that definitely sounds cool.
Yeah.
I also do like there being a physical body there. I think that would be the ultimate ending, would be maybe Meditech taking the twin because it didn't exist to begin with.
Ooh, yeah.
That seems like a possible ending. So I think there needs to have a physical form that either shows up or just pops right away. So although I do like the idea of a ghost, I think I like the idea of that assumed pregnancy turning into a person. Like maybe she has like what's her name? What's this lady's name?
Miriam.
Miriam?
Miriam?
Is that what you said?
I like that name.
Miriam.
Sure.
Cool.
It's I'm assuming this is in the future, so all these old people names have come back. So like, Miriam and Agnes are young heiresses. They hang out with Bartleby.
What's Miriam's last name? Miriam
Bartleby.
Miriam Bartleby?
I don't know.
No. 2 syllables. How about like
Cantor.
Miriam Cantor.
Cantor?
Or Cantor. All right. Miriam Cantor. All right. So Miriam Cantor, she is in the high society, in the high elite, and she is being pressured severely by her agent and her manager and even her parents or whatever to get rid of this, what they think is an unsightly scar or birthmark, probably on her abdomen region. She gets forced to take this pill, which makes her feel that she is getting pregnant. Although that mark goes away because it probably should do what it's supposed to do. She starts getting pregnant. It turns into, after a course of not very long, it turns into a conjoined twin that is just right in front of her, I guess, facing her. Which
I think,
sounds awful.
Okay, if we do the pregnancy, so the conscious could have formed or whatever, and so we can still have that spectral person talking and that sort of thing. But maybe she does have to birth the child. Like maybe because the child wasn't formed in the womb, it has to be actually formed to have a physical body, and then they could take the baby.
That's gross and interesting. I love that. Okay,
I'm into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So pregnancy has to give birth, and I'm assuming that it grows quickly, right?
Yeah, it does that accelerated thing that is almost never handled well. Yeah, suddenly this baby is like 12 years old, and then they stop aging so the movie can happen.
But because the consciousness is there right away, and it is an age consciousness, she knows what it is. It's just other people don't know. So
I don't know if she knows what it is, but I feel like she thinks it's just like her going crazy or something, like seeing spectral image.
She goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "So how long have you been pregnant?" And she goes, "What are you talking about?" And then somehow that leads into the revelation that this person that she's seeing is actually a mental construct brought about by taking this pill.
Now, when do we get the reveal that she probably had? Is it the same doctor that she's always had? Like, I guess we would need a reveal that there was another a fetus that got absorbed or something.
Either that or a conversation with her parents.
All right. And then how does Meditech fold into this one?
They were told by the doctor she goes to see.
I mean, how do they? Like, what do they?
Oh,
yeah. Do they take this baby twin thing? Okay.
Yeah, they definitely take the baby.
It's company property.
It is company property.
That's their excuse.
That's true. That's gross.
If we're doing cyberpunk, we can go real cynical on that element of it too.
Yeah, I like that. Company property. Okay. So what did she learn, or what happens to her after she after this thing gets taken, after this other person, her baby twin?
I feel like she's just she's obviously really shocked, but then she goes hard. Like, she's coming back and she's gonna get these guys as however she can.
All right, so this episode is going to end with her just being contemplative and probably sad that she just lost something and is working this out, and that's going to end like that. And then she's going to show back up later on in like a powerhouse move and help get rid of Meditech. Okay, cool.
Yeah, she's changed but determined.
All right. Now, what is episode 3?
I figure we go horror on this and do the gradual like guild transformation.
Okay.
That would be horrific.
Yeah.
All right. Now, who is this person? Like, is this a dude?
I say this one goes a little harder. I say that this is kind of not a great person and doesn't end well for him.
All right, I'm okay with that. Now, what did this person? What were they trying to get rid of that they took this medicine? Start building this character out a little bit. Now, other vanity moves. I'm assuming they could have maybe like in an X heist, or if they're a bad guy, they lost. Like, say they lost a hand, and they found out this can just replace their hand or something.
I'm seeing bad guy like hedge fund manager bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what would they want this medicine for? Why are they taking this?
I like the idea that he was in some sort of accident and cut his. Only because I see the transformation where it like regrows his hand, and he goes, "Oh, that's cool, that's normal." And then you have the shot of the skin going up between the fingers, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" And he goes, "Stop." And then that's the initial kind of notice that something weird is happening with this. All
right, what happened? Why did he lose his hand? Or foot, or whatever?
Golfing accident, and it took his hand.
Okay.
An accident of some sort that, like a person of normal means might not be in that environment in the first place.
They lose their hand. What is this guy's name? Give me a pretentious guy's name. A hedge fund manager's name. Don't say Dylan.
Berkshire Hathaway.
Berkshire Hathaway.
Don't write that.
Don't write that.
Oh, that's an inside joke. That's cool. Wait, who's that?
It's their bank.
Oh, I'm okay with that. Okay, guy's name.
What about like Benjamin or something?
Sure. Benjamin what?
Aristocratic.
Benjamin Aristocrat.
Aristo. Benjamin Aristo.
Benjamin Aristo. Yeah. I love that. Okay, Benjamin Aristo, who was a hedge fund manager, he, in a weird golfing accident, probably with a caddy or some kind of disagreement over Smirnoff Ice or probably one of those new hard seltzers, and he loses his hand, and obviously he's got a whole lot of money, so he quickly goes over and he gets his pill, and he takes his thing, and he watches his hand grow back pretty quickly. But for some reason, which I guess we got to get into genetically, why does he turn into webbed fingers / possibly gills?
I think in the third episode.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I think we introduced that this is like an extra strength or something like that. Like This is another few months after the last one, and this is like whatever the pill is called, extra, and it's specifically designed to regrow, something like that. And maybe he takes multiple of them because he has something important coming up.
Going back to the brain thing, reshaping the brain, it's actually going further back evolutionarily than they wanted it to.
Cool. So yeah, so he takes 2 instead of 1 for some reason.
Oh yeah, maybe he takes 2. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. Then he goes back a little bit too far, and for some reason, because he's a hedge fund manager, his ancestors were slimy mud skipper people, and and he starts growing subtle gills and webbed fingers and webbed toes, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, what is his story? Like, what does he go through in this?
I think it's real action based, and he dies at the end.
So
I don't know if this is a long one. Yeah.
Yeah. So he calls the place immediately, and he is the male version of a Karen.
Yes.
And he complains until he gets up to management pretty quickly. And they're like, "Look, we'll just send somebody out right away." And he's like, "Look, I have a lot of money. Send somebody right now." And they go, "Fine, we'll send somebody right now." And when they get there, he realizes that they have like guns and stuff, and they're just going to take him out. So there is a bit of a.
He's now a creature, and he does fight back, but he doesn't win in the end.
Yeah, because what they don't know is that he recently had a beautiful pond put into his backyard that was expertly stocked. So he runs into the back and just jumps into the pond, thinking that he can live the rest of his fish life there, which he cannot. And guys come around, they circle the pond and just and just shoot up the pond and throw explosives in there and stuff. What do you see, Dylan?
I like everything here. I'm kind of envisioning the process of the transformation for him.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie Clown?
Of course.
It's not good, but it had it felt like a natural kind of monster transformation progression throughout. I'm seeing it kind of like that, where he does a hand regrowth, and it's maybe we do the thing where he has a bad night because it's regrowing a hand. It's not easy, and then he notices both his hands are webbed, and he has trouble putting his socks on or something, and he has to call out from work, and they're like, "Benjamin, calling out for work, but we're a big hedge fund. You don't have time off." And he goes,
"Gosh darn it, my name is Benjamin. I can do whatever I want. I have a lot of money."
Something like that. He initially tries to throw his weight around, and it doesn't work out because, he's good and unhinged. I like the idea of him having, like, either a pond or when he starts growing gills, he has to, he tries to go into his pool, but the chlorine isn't good for it.
Cool.
So then he has to go, into his bathtub or something like that, and then from there on.
Yeah, so I like the idea that maybe he lives, maybe has beachfront property with a swimming pool. So he goes into the pool, and maybe he realized that he has a hard time not breathing underwater or something. Like it's starting to burn his neck. So then I also like the idea of him maybe slowly suffocating and not realizing what's going on, and then having to get into the water or something, which ultimately maybe lets him go into the ocean.
So by the time they get there, they didn't have to kill him. He's just laid out on the beach, and even looks normal by this point.
Yeah,
it's worn off.
Oh, they get there and he's just flopping around on the kitchen floor, and they go, "I guess we got to put him out of his misery."
Or they find him in the bath. He's submerged himself in his big jacuzzi bathtub or something, and they just pull him out and just throw him in the back of a truck with no water in it, and they just drive off.
Cool.
And we're left to imply that they very clearly weren't very interested in preserving him.
Yeah, they have a big Ziploc bag, and they throw him and some of the bathwater into the Ziploc bag and throw him into the back of the truck. Okay, and that's obviously how Meditech shows up. Now, we don't have a whole lot of time, so let's get down to what the series-long arc is. So Meditech is trying to, stop the press from knowing about the side effects of their drugs, and also B, they are owning people's genetic code.
I think the main story of this is about people trying to do whistleblowing on Meditech, and maybe halfway through, the first half is concerned with all these people who experience these weird aberrations in person, and then the second half is kind of them going through, and we see the larger scale of it on like the larger impact it has on people.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously we don't have time to develop that part, but I'm kind of seeing the first half of this being very on the ground in your face, and then it pulls back in the second half, and we see how it affects society to have this ability.
Okay. Now, how do we work in York back into the story? How does he become like one of the big guys, maybe along with Miriam? What do they do? Like, do they meet online for people that maybe
Support
had this
group?
happen? Yeah, like a Reddit
maybe
page.
maybe Miriam actually kind of in passing New York, or even thought that that's who the baby was. It was like a one night stand kind of thing.
He's
so
a ladies' man.
Out. Yeah.
So she knows York, and she seeks him out to let him know that their baby got stolen. And then
right, but it's not really the baby. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when he's like, no, I took this medicine, blah, blah, blah.
I love the idea that Miriam texts York in the first episode, and that's how you know he's a ladies' man, because he's just completely ignores it or something.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Dylan, make sure that we put in there that Miriam texts him, and there's that weird conversation. I like that. And maybe at the end of this, he texts her back, but she's already going through this, so she doesn't respond. I don't know. I like that. We'll get that. Okay, so now we have Meditech doing this stuff. What does the end of the season look like? So we have Miriam, our hero, and she texts York, who is a jerk and bald now because he shaved his head to hide from people, including possibly robots. But
somehow he's better looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets like a real scar.
He does the Walter White thing.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now the fish person is dead. We need to work on a couple more people, but the ultimate series is what? What happens? They don't storm Meditech.
No, it doesn't end on an action thing. I think it's a little more personal for everybody. I think everybody gets their own little personal confrontation done, whether it winds up for good or ill for them.
Okay.
And
so where would we like to see Miriam and York at the end of this?
They come to an understanding and they're not together, but
good.
they both leave it kind of ready to self-improve, but changed from the situation.
Okay. And where is Meditech at the end of this season?
I always like the question mark after the end. So,
yes. So do we do the thing where like they go into a room full of other people that they have acquired, including this fish person, and a couple people that we did not see throughout the season? Is that we're going to end on that kind of cliffhanger?
I don't think we end on that. I think that's in like the 75% mark. I think we end on this with Meditech getting dissolved, but another shady like pharma company has picked up all of their like intellectual property.
Yeah,
so it's like
the press release, Meditech's gone, like whatever. Yeah, there's nobody. This thing is dissolved. We've solved the problem, but then you realize that the original scientists and doctors that were working on this stuff have this other shady umbrella corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Dylan, what's the name of the next shady umbrella organization?
Gray Tech. No, not tech. I like gray as like a just like a company header.
Yeah. It's like enterprises, mechanics. What do you?
I don't think it necessarily works. The something group, because it's like a grouped cluster of like acquired.
Oh, I like Gray Group
subsidiaries. Gray Group.
Yeah, the Gray Group. Because then
I feel like there needs to be another word.
Yeah, at least one more syllable.
They are dealing with brain, and there's gray matter. I don't know if that's too. I feel like there is something called gray matter.
I do like gray matter, but also I like the idea of it being the Gray Group, and then maybe people thinking that it's alien. because of like the Grays or something. So that's kind of where I went first. The Gray Matter group. Oh, we'll get to that. That's fine.
We'll get to it. If it's another shady company, they don't even need to have a name. It's like acquired by. And
maybe we just see a logo.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Okay. So
it's like a needle with a sword hilt. It's like a syringe with a sword hilt. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
All right. Now I gotta work on some logo designs. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dylan, we're out of time, dude.
I think so.
Yeah. This is one of the first ones that we got to sit down and work on a little bit more after this because we got some episodes to plug in. But Cammy, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you and your creative thought process and helping us make this into something way better than I originally had, which is about conjoined twins. And I was like, oh, this is meta. How do I get? Like, do they just? I don't know, whatever. But please. Tell us one last time where we can find your show, and just if you got shirts or something you want to sell or anything at all,
plug your stuff.
Plug your stuff.
Cool. Well, thank you both again for having me on. I had so much fun. It is the Mythstorie podcast. That's myth and then story with an IE. Anywhere you can find your podcast. We do have shirts and skateboards even at mythstorie.threadless.com. And our YouTube channel. That's about it.
That's awesome. And honestly, we really appreciate you spending any amount of time, especially 90 minutes creating something that we're going to try to make some money off of. But Dylan.
Zach.
My best friend.
We did it.
Thank you so much for talking to me for 90 minutes about something as weird as future tech medicine.
This is a pretty weird one. All things that we've done considered. All 30 episodes.
I think it would make like an excellent like comic series.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like that a lot. But yeah, this is our 30th episode of Talking UpStream, which is cool. This is one of those benchmarks that me and Dylan wanted to get to. We're like, if we get to 30 episodes, that's like a real season of something.
I can retire finally.
Yeah, now we can bank on that 30 episode money. But please tune in every week and check out the weird stuff that we do. We meet some new friends like our friend Cammy, and we make some stuff. That's it. We talk and we show people a creative way of taking a very stupid idea, such as what if there was an idea of a God pill, and turning it into roughly an eight episode series thing with a large big bad series arc. You got a bunch of people with some extreme side effects. It is a crazy story, but it's all because Cammy was here and also your help too, Dylan, and I appreciate you. Once again, we got some thanks to throw out there. So thank you to International Broadcast Media Television for having us on here and having my whiteboard not sit in a corner gathering dust. Thank you so much. Also, if you want to help us out, go to patreon.com/somenobodies and throw a couple bucks at us, and we're learning some stuff, and we're growing, and we're making shows. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. You can always go to somenobodies.com and check out everything that we are doing and the projection, I guess the trajectory of these weird projects that we do have going on. And some people we want to thank: Scott Curtis from Behind the Bits, Sarah Tkachuk, Tanya Sheck, and Listener App are the most important people that we can talk about right now, other than Cammy and my friend Dylan. And until next time, guys, thank you so much. Tune in on Tuesdays if you want to see us talk live on Twitch. But until next week, I've been Zach. He's been Dylan. We're Some Nobodies. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.